My name is Jim, and I've bought Age of Empires 2 so many times. Christmas '99 as a tiny child, the expansion. I spent a while sulking over this shit, then bought it again in 2013 for the HD version, then more expansions, and then 2019 for the definitive edition. I played some laggy team games in 2000 on the MSN Gaming Zone on a 56k modem, which were interesting, and then some 1v1s at a friend's house, but other than that, I've not been online. After 20 years of playing the game, I've honed my ability to the point where I can reliably defeat a medium AI, if they obligingly suicide into my castle, and don't build too many rams. I'm not great, but the flourishing esports scene and the infinite free time of quarantine finally got me interested, and I resolved that somehow I would improve. So I came up with the AoE A to Z, where I will try 5 games with every civilization in alphabetical order and try to become okay at this game. First up, Aztecs. Now, Aztecs are one of the 3 Meso civs. They have no access to cavalry at all, reflecting the absolute historical accuracy of the Age of Empires series, but they do have the almost as fast-moving, arrow-resistant, absolute dickhead units that are Eagle Scouts. They've got good siege, but my micro isn't good enough for that. They have got tremendous monks who wear special sandwich board robes and jester hats and get buffer for every monastery tech they research, and my micro definitely isn't good enough for monks. They do have unparalleled heavy infantry though, which I think I'm capable of spamming. Jaguar warriors will defeat every infantry unit one-on-one, except Teutonic Knights, and with their unique technology of Garland Wars, their champions and eagles are able to punch well above their weight too. They have a unique skirmisher technology for the trash wars and passable arbalests. Their villagers are extra beefy and can carry extra stuff. They're dreadful on water, but given I'm not ready for a water map yet, that's fine. They are a very potent civilization to be starting with. An absolute wall of beef. And going into this, I'd internalised one build order, which was how to use my first 15 villagers. There's a very handy Spirit of the Law video I'll link below, and it's well worth a watch. But here's the short version: 6 sheep, 4 wood, 1 boar, 4 berries, freestyle, and then win. So we're going to use that and see how it goes, and I can try to learn more complicated orders in later civs. So let's get on to the games. There were 2 very successful and very similar games on Hillfort. Hillfort makes up for the fact that I have no idea when and how to wall by putting the walls there already. Here we are versus the Teutons. It's a reasonably clean Dark Age, a little bit of gold mining, and then we mass archers in the Feudal Age, win 1 fight, get to Castle Age, upgrade to crossbows, kill loads of villagers, and then build a university in his base just because fuck it. It's a win. The other one was against Mayans, where we do exactly the same thing, but better. I got quite lucky and auto-scouted his exposed woodline, moved crossbows in, killed 7 villagers, and won while I was still in feudal. And in both those games, I had an economic advantage. The presence of walls means less things to focus on, and I can concentrate on not fucking up what is, let me remind you, a 6-step flowchart. Archers are easy to fight with. You point, you click, units die, and if they have no opposition, well, it's a quick win if you snipe enough villagers early on. But that goes both ways. I experienced the exact reverse outcome versus Huns on Serengeti. Did I wall? No. No, I put some buildings with loads of gaps in the way. It was like a little crowded alleyway. My economy wasn't clean, but it was roughly equal to my opponents in the early phases, but where they succeeded massively was in their raids. 3 scouts wreaked a small amount of havoc before I swarmed them with villagers, and at which point I massively overracked and built tons of spearmen, and 1 militia for some reason. Meanwhile, they're safe inside their base, which I've not scouted at all. They pivoted to crossbows, and when they finally arrive, there's nothing I can really do. I'm outclassed, frankly. And then there were 2 other games, a couple of longer games on 4 lakes, which I'm going to look at a bit more in depth. 4 lakes is the closest that my queue gets to a water map, It's got these little ponds in the corners. And I do know you should always dock early and fish. It's the most efficient way to increase your net food. I also know that means you need more wood, so I adapted the sacred build order and sent the berry villagers to wood. This seemed to run reasonably smoothly, but I'd probably need to look this up at some point. One of the games was against Aztecs, who rushed me early with men-at-arms. I don't deal well with early rushes. I don't wall, as established in the previous game, and I don't think about how exposed my resources are when I'm choosing wood lines and gold mines. I sort of fought them off with a combination of town centre fire and partial walling and eventually archers for the loss of a few villagers. I then sent those archers forward to raid, took some favourable engagements with skirmishers from a hill, got to castle age first and decided to take charge with a forward castle. This is good. Something I've noticed at my level is that players, including myself, don't work around obstacles. They tend to want to batter them down with their face. So really, my medium bot training has a lot of use here. He sends everything at this castle over the next half hour, which allows me to focus my response and build up an economy in the background. Archery ranges, barracks, siege workshops are built up, and I try to maintain a force and just repel his assaults. There's a few hairy moments, but I successfully construct and use a mangonel to kill a clump of units. Sun Tzu would be proud. He never docks his second leg, and eventually we overwhelm the base with eagles and trebuchets in a massive cinematic battle between eagles and champions. I like the way that Age of Empires doesn't boot you back to menu as soon as the game's over. You can have a little chat at the end, so I recommended he fish both lakes and he wondered how my eagles beat his champions. I think it's because I researched Garland Wars and he didn't. And then there was the last game, again on 4 lakes, another Meso derby versus the Mayans this time, which really highlights my biggest weaknesses and strengths at the moment. It starts okay. I get both docks up and running, but I leave a gap in the wall that he can just walk archers into and kill a lot of villagers. Eventually, we chase them off with skirmishers, and part of me wants to resign, but I decide to give it a go when I spot eagle warriors massing in the distance, because I know that my infantry will counter that. Aztec infantry are amazing. So I forget about trying to expand, there's not really time, and I take an aggressive approach. I hire as many long swords as possible, push back the eagles, and incidentally, if you don't know, the easy way to engage melee units is to patrol them into the other army. I think it's Q, it's the original hotkey for that. That's way better than just clicking on things. I build some castles on a hill right in the middle of the map, and as I said before, players love to charge with their faces into castles. And there's a point here where he's absolutely backpedaling, and I was close to winning the game. I took out town centres, production hubs, but I made the mistake of taking my foot off the gas, and completely failed to use this breathing room to improve my economic situation. I'm still pumping out villages, I suppose, but I'm not adding town centres, I'm not even researching economic technologies. There's a point about 50 minutes in where I've still not got wheelbarrow, I've still not got like the first gold mining upgrade, and I've barely taken any resources from outside my base. And the one time I do, I death march 15 villagers into a castle without realising. And so he completely dominates the map without being contested, and although I continually take good fights with the units I have at the fortress, it's not enough to beat this enormous resource advantage. Eventually we're overwhelmed with trebuchets and archers and eagles. It's a miracle I've lasted as long as I do, but it's over. Let's look at the economy for a second. I maxed out at 66 villages to his 110. I had a lot of problems expanding quickly once the castle age is reached, prioritising the difference between, what you build and what you research and what you expand to. And I also have terrible problems with building walls. I've uploaded a long version of that game with commentary as a separate video if you fancy it. I think it's a fun one. Thanks for watching, and please let me know if you have any comments or suggestions. Yes, I know I'm not very good. Next episode is Berbers.